Hey guys, welcome back to Love Money Venus. I am Emily Litzel. I'm your astrologer. And I guess we're getting ready to do the last forecast of 2021 or the first forecast of 2022, depending on how you look at it. And this one is to deal with the main vibes of 2022 and how this is going to change energetically from what we've been working with in 2021, because it is a really big shift. We're going to spend a lot of time focusing on the movement of the nodes from Gemini and Sagittarius to Taurus and Scorpio. What that means is that this year's eclipses are going to be in the signs of Taurus and Scorpio. The North Node is in Taurus, the South Node is in Scorpio. Energy of Taurus is what you're going to be aiming for this entire year and a half. You're going to have to get through a lot of Scorpio programming to be able to enjoy the abundance and the ease of Taurus. So let's start there. Okay, the South Node is in Scorpio. This is a really big deal because coming into this year, you probably have quite a bit of unresolved baggage from 2021. This was an excruciating year for so many people, as well as exhilarating. There were some really big moments to it, but with these Saturn-Uranus squares all year long and the Venus-Pluto conjunction, and there's just been such an enormously heavy amount of energy stalling our plans, no matter what we do, just forcing like these blocks whenever you find yourself in this really inspired forward motion of Uranus, right? You're like breaking through and like it's a revolution, and then all of a sudden it's like a fist meets a wall. That is still kind of in play as we go into next year, but we're getting some stronger tools to be able to deal with it. Adding to the Uranus and Taurus theme that everybody's been playing out, now we have the North Node moving into that sign too. So where Taurus is one of the most stability and security oriented signs of the zodiac, it's a big theme when you're dealing with Taurian values. Uranus is literally the opposite. This is a planet of revolution and upheaval and sudden breakthroughs, okay? So the message is still kind of like there's no such thing as like real like stable ground in this world. There is no like real security. So how do you become secure in the change? Like how do you make that work for you? And now the North Node moving into the same sign means that is like an imperative lesson that has to be learned. It's going to be something that is brought back into your awareness again and again and again over the year. And you need to understand why. This is moving from the Gemini North Node goal, right? Gemini is very analytical. It's Mercury ruled. It's mercurial. That is taking information and dissecting it and turning it into data and figuring out how to cultivate that into new solutions. It's based on more lived experience and shared experience than these big, philosophies and theories that can come with South Node and Sagittarius. And hopefully over the course of 2021, we've been able to collect like a lot of that metadata, right, regarding how we're functioning and what we're doing and where we're going. I say this because that South Node and Sagittarius also had more than a few of us on these epic financial quests, right? We've been battling Wall Street. We've been battling hedge funds. We've been preparing ourselves for moonshots with our own resources. We've been saving all year long to be able to put it into our portfolios. And for some of it really is going to start to pay off in like a week or two. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be the one to capitalize on it. There's so much astrology working against you at the same time as it is rooting for you, but let's just assume that you find your top, you hit your number, you cash out, you take profits, and you have this whole new fortune sitting in your lap. Taurus and the North Node in Taurus would tell you that like all you have at that moment, no matter how many dollars that is, you have resources now. What you do with those resources and how you deploy them, that is all stuff that you still have to come up with on your own. And the theme of the nodes being here, and especially with the Capricorn New Moon that we're going to kick off, there's a real overlying theme this year of independence and carrying your own weight and what it takes to be able to do that. But the South Node behavior that we're going to be falling into when we're comfortable or trying to escape out of, being pulled into when we're trying to self-soothe, is Scorpio energy. Mostly, I feel like this placement of the South Node speaks to psychological undoing. This year, when you're hitting some of these more stressful points, or when you're hitting the temptation of some of these, like the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, Jupiter and Pisces, a whole bunch of different points of this year look like mass intoxication, okay? If you have not been attending to your mental, physical, psychological, inner, outer health, the goals of Taurus, those things are going to start coming up in fairly explosive manners. Like, especially because some of this looks like big parties and like big boozing and all of that kind of stuff, like emotional outbursts when you've been drinking too much and then having to deal with the wreckage of that. If you've been a normally confident person and you have just been pushing aside some existential dread, you might find yourself having panic attacks in places that you never had before. There is good stuff to be had this year, but my point is, like, if you were thinking about playing it fast and loose with your central nervous system, maybe don't. You need your health more than you've ever needed it before, and your choices have to be cultivating that ideal state of health for you, not what is healthy for somebody else, what that looks like for you all year long. Like, even in the moments when you're being called into these massive temptations, like April looks like the entire like country turns into Burning Man. Like, that is, I don't even know what to expect from the Jupiter Neptune conjunction we have coming up. So in 22, because of some very specific reasons, the number one asset class that you have got to be heavily exposed to, what you cannot afford to not invest in this year, is yourself. And you only have yourself. You don't have as many places to fall back on if something happens to you that you normally have. Okay, now it's time to get really into it, and kind of why I just like am trying to steer you away from moonshot. Just chasing wealth and riches this year, it's not necessarily not going to happen for you. It's just not going to be the answer that you think it is. We're going to start with the Pluto return of the United States, okay? Everybody knows that this is happening. It's in the second house of earned income, and already we can kind of see the ingredients of like how that's going to go. The United States is currently in the middle of some massive inflation issues, and it looks like it's going to get worse. There seems to be a labor shortage, but there's also a lot of people reporting that they're trying to get hired in jobs where they can begin to support themselves, and it's not happening. So North Node trine Pluto is something that's going to be happening in the beginning of February for everybody. It hits everybody's chart in a different way. But in this instance, the North Node in the United States 6th house of work and workers and laborers is just a massive signal that whatever is changing in the Pluto return has everything to do with labor. It has everything to do with the American workforce. And we already know that this has been like the source of like the main upheaval of what's going on in this country for a really long time, because Uranus, the planet of revolution and freedom, has already been working through the 6th house. So there's been this massive push and pull between workers and employers, dealing with minimum wage, dealing with work standards and work safety environments, and basically just being able to support yourself off any kind of job that you take. This can't continue. There is something going on between the workers and the government always. Now, there's a tension that cannot be resolved, and it doesn't look like in this form it's going to come in the package of like more government aid, but it does look like there is going to be more incentivizing workers, small businesses. They're going to have to come back to the table. Too many people are out of it. Too many people see that it's absolute nonsense, think that it's too dangerous to engage with. People that have been staying home or working from home for quite some time, like especially last year, found how much money they saved just staying home. In some of the places where you work, it's like if you work in New York City and you have to pay for subway fare and, you know, a lunch when you get there and just getting around, if you're not making enough, you can wipe yourself out just trying to get back and forth to work. You know, like there is a level of earning that you have to be able to take back that makes any of these careers worth it. And 2022, depending on your circumstances, may not be able to save you from having to work. that may be something that comes for you regardless. But if you are taking resources from like a really brilliant play like AMC, if you do have some of these things to work with, if you have a new foundation of health because you've been taking really good care of yourself through this pandemic, you feel younger, you feel healthier, there is so much to be made here as far as aligning yourself with work, paying work, like not like paying work that you can support yourself with that actually matches the goals and the gifts that you are here with. And that is one of those things where it's like, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. That is the kind of thing that is on offer here. And ultimately, as opposed to just trying to, it's not that there aren't gains to be made in the stock market, it's that you should be really doing both. And the kind of gains that 2022 is going to offer are really different than the ones that 2021 had on offer. And the other thing that we're going to notice, if you haven't noticed it already, you're not paying attention, but there is going to be pressure from all sides coming on the working class that haven't had to go back into the workforce yet. If you kind of look at like, there's been some big clues on every side of the political aisle that this is everybody's concern at the top levels of government, okay? Biden had the chance to actually wipe out quite a lot of student debt, and it was one of his campaign promises. And considering that like nothing is getting passed through Congress and his agenda, like it just keeps getting stopped, it was actually a really big win that the Democratic Party needed. And there wasn't a ton of like, at least on the surface, good reasoning for not taking it, other than debt keeps the American worker indebted to the job market. You have to go back into that. You have to take less than you would want to because you have these incredible financial obligations that you always have to keep paying into. We go into Trump talking about the vaccine, and say whatever you want about him, however you feel about that. That is a man that is normally going to give his followers whatever they ask for. And by and large, his followers do not want to be taking the vaccine. Him going on camera and saying, no, it's totally safe, it's not going to kill anybody, it's you should be taking it and staying out of the hospital. That's about getting people back to work. That's because he has, I would assume he has corporate interests higher than risking the affection of his base. And then you have the CDC at the same time coming out with guidelines that have people quarantining for less time, which has been pretty clearly stated that it's in the favor of getting people back to work. So the people that are working right now, the people that haven't been able to put aside resources, that have families to support, it's a very hard thing to do, and it's a scary situation for anybody to kind of volunteer putting themselves into. So if you have any measure of resources, really I see this as being a thing for small business. Like, you're either working for yourself or you're working for the man, and the man is trying to kill you. There's so many different ways and so much pressure that can be applied to the average American worker to make sure that you just cannot leave that system. Because right now, with the North Node in the 6th house, that puts the South Node in America's 12th house of involuntary confinement. That could definitely be a sign of more lockdowns, but I really don't think it is in this place. I feel like that is more alluding to the 12th house's shadowy figures, hidden enemies. Like, there's definitely big energy and power players kind of focused nonstop. Like, the entire conversation behind the scenes, I swear to God, is how to get everybody back to work. And from that context, maybe the government is going to let a massive amount of moon bags be collected by retail, taking even more people out of the workforce. But I really doubt it. Your labor is more valuable to this country than you know. The reason that I say all this, if you guys are still with me at this point, even though I've been a little bit of a buzzkill, is because it's important to recognize what level you are at now to know where the next level you should be heading for is. And if you are hanging on by a thread, then your next level is to find stability no matter what that takes. I really feel like these stars are going to favor entrepreneurs and people that are trying to work for themselves, but you have to have a plan that is more than just market dependent on what you're going to do with your gains. Unless you are a very, very, very skilled trader, I mean, even if you are a skilled trader, you should still be trading, but you should have something that is not going to make you crazy, some kind of work that you can personalize, tailor fit to your needs and your wants and your purpose, and then nobody else, where you can call your own shots. Because this year is one of the greatest that I've seen in a really long time for manifesting and manifesting new outcomes and manifesting entirely new existences that you can't like really even comprehend right now. But manifesting and make believe are not the same thing. You have to be able to see it. Like, you have to be able to believe in it. If know what is possible within the hand you have been dealt and the hand you dealt yourself, and get ready to play it for everything it's worth, because this is a sum zero year. Okay, the moments that you get like these tides underneath you have the ability to carry you so far, but then there are a ton of moments right on the heels that look like the most brutal wake-up calls I've ever seen in my life. Like, especially if you're kind of indulging in the Jupiter Neptunian hallucinogenics. I really do feel like shrooms are going to be like a really big, have a comeback in some area of life. And there's such a bad idea right now. Like, here I am, like, Happy New Year. It's time to be sober and hardworking. Good for you. Okay, so we get to January 2nd, the second day of our new year. And we have this like kind of lovely, very like sobering, realistic, but beautiful new moon that doesn't have a ton of horrible stuff happening to it. There's a couple of clues that we have here. We have the new moon at 12 degrees and Saturn is semi-sextile at 12 degrees as well. And then we have two planets at 0 degrees. We have Jupiter at 0 degrees of Pisces, and we have Mercury moving into 0 degrees of Aquarius. So 0 degrees, the first degree of a sign when a planet has just ingressed, is brand new, fresh energy. And in this case, we have Jupiter of our ideals, beliefs, our what we aim for in this life, why we do what we do, purpose, meaning, philosophy, abundance, and Mercury, the problem solver, how we think, how we feel, how we act and approach, solutions to these situations. This is a time to review, take stock of what 2021 was good for and what it was bad for. And unfortunately, even though this is a new moon and we're kind of setting up our intentions, I love this for like the new year too, because this is great energy to set up New Year's intentions over. This is also about taking stock of what didn't work. These are our losses as much as it is our gains, figuring out like what our intentions have to be, what we have to be aiming for. Because we're talking about a ton of energy in Capricorn and in Taurus now. These are two earth signs. This is about miracles made manifest, what you can see on this practical earth, what you can experience in this material human existence, okay? To me, this new moon says if you have taken honest stock and appraisal of your circumstances and where you are and where you want to go, and you are willing to look at what practical steps it takes to get you there, you can lay the foundation. You can take the first steps towards your dreams and your new existence, but you have to be thinking of something that you can imagine yourself embodying. So my personal, how I'm using this new moon and the planetary magic that I have centered around it for this year, and how I recommend, of course, this is up to all of you as how you want to use it, is I'm focusing on what I need to shore up my defenses so that I can meet the moment of whatever this year has to offer. There's some really harrowing moments in this year's astrology, but there are other moments that are just like, I look at the stars, and for all of us, it's like exhilarating. Like, I feel this huge rush of, oh my God, we're finally going to be getting some movement and some excitement. The South Node in Scorpio in trine, in a water trine to Jupiter and Neptune, really does make me very scared for people that are struggling with dependency issues. You're going to need to take some of the bracing, stabilizing, grounding energy of this new moon and of all of the Taurus energy and get some help. Figure out what steps you have to take, because these waves are going to pull you under in a big way. And the problem with this year is the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction and bi-sign, co-presence that they have for the first part of the year is going to make it feel like it's all a party and like, yeah, humanity is merged and we're all one. So by the time we get to Jupiter and Aries in late May, early June, that is like this Piscean merge with the universe, you know, we're all one, we're all in this together, dissipates in favor of independence, self-assertion, forward motion of the self. It's going to be such a palpable change to wanting to be in control of our own circumstances and a little less weighed down. And anybody who isn't energetically prepared to make this shift with their loved ones, like the people that you do count on and the people that you have tightly in your inner circle, are probably going to need to have more of a break from whatever they've been carrying for you or whatever. If you're super close and kind of codependent with somebody, this is energy that they're going to have to like break that either forcibly or you guys like separate intentionally so everybody can handle what they have to handle for themselves. Because at the end of the day, your responsibilities, the people that you have signed up for, your family, your friends, your closest pod members that you are, this is about finding the absolute essential team members and like supporting them. Because if you don't support them, they can't support you. But you literally have to cut any dead weight that isn't getting you there. That's what the Capricorn New Moon says. Like, how much can you carry with you? Unresolved grudges, resentments, ego battles, like just kind of being stuck in trolling behavior, just not anything that has you kind of wanting to see somebody else like suffer and struggle is so dangerous for so many reasons. One, this Scorpio South Node, Pisces, Jupiter trine with Neptune in there has the potential to blow that up beyond your control, where that becomes your new meaning and your purpose with a really obsessive, repetitive quality to it. And two, even with the Capricorn New Moon and going back to like where we are like in the present, what you start with, this is about what you can take with you on the climb. Like what can you actually carry up the mountain? Because that's what we're doing. We're trying to get up the mountain to the next place. Whatever it is that's been stressing you out about your inner relationships, I see a lot more of this being about relationships, especially with the Venus retrograde and the Pluto Venus conjunction that we just got through. Whatever was exposed to you as far as toxicity and imbalances in your relationships, they're either going to have to go or be resolved. But I've already seen this massive weight all over the place where people are starting to talk about the psychological weights that they've been carrying, you know, and starting to share tips for therapeutic resources. I've seen a lot about neurofeedback. I feel like the South Node in Scorpio is like the diagnosis that's getting the evidence to see what's actually wrong with you, and then the medicine is in Taurus. Taurus is about the work you do and the reasons that you do it. Like what rewards does it take? What makes it worth it to put your physical and your psychological health on the line? The Scorpio South Node is going to start antagonizing those sensitive parts of you that are just trying to cope with it. If you do get sick, if you do get injured, injury is such like a huge, like underrated part of the human experience. Okay. That is just a part of life. How do you deal with it? Like, how do you recuperate in the fastest way possible to be able to get back to like your mission and your purpose and what you're here for? These are really big questions that you are going to be asking yourself and answering in the beginning of 2022. And I don't think that you're going to get it all done with the Capricorn New Moon, but the idea is to set yourself up for success by starting to ask those questions of what it is that you need. Like, what do you need to get to the next level? 2022 is less about speculating and really all about what you build, what you were sent here to build, what you want your money building, what you want to be focused on, what you want this world to look like when the chaos comes through and starts to like, it's not that it's going to come to an end, it's that it's literally a new reality that's being built now. So which piece of that do you want to be responsible for? Like what part of the skyline is going to have your name on it? This is like in chaos, there's always opportunity. And that's kind of like what we're looking at the wreckage of 2021. There's a new economy on the way. There is a new societal contract between corporate America and the labor force of the country coming up. But like, I mean, what happens in February in that Pluto return trine North node for the US? that's just a kickoff. That's like a linchpin. That's like the spark. Like, this is an underlying theme that is going to be unfolding for many years, but that is where we're going to start to get the first taste of where that goes. But if you're hoping for tremendous amounts of like government support or aid in helping you acquire small fortunes that would keep you from having to like degrade yourself with a 9 to 5, that is not going to happen. And I definitely see almost the opposite scenario, like very aggressive debt collection means trying to get people into, it's weird because it's not like, I would say this is like trying to trap everybody into like low price like home loans, but there's not going to be a ton of credit like available. It feels like for 2022, it's going to be what you can do on your own resources and or, you know, family help. Like, it's going to be a lot harder to get loans, I think, but in the same sense, like if you don't have a loan on something, you're going to be really kind of like screwed. Like, do you remember when the IRS, I don't know, they might still have it. It was some kind of ID check that you had to get through and you couldn't log into the site unless you had either a home loan, a car loan, a student loan, or a credit card number so they could check your credit report and figure out who you were. That to me was one of the most telling things about what this country operates on. Like, you are supposed to be a good stand-up member of the debt buying community, right? Like, that's the contract. Like, you get good credit if you are using debt appropriately and paying just the right amount of interest into the system, you know? And it's not even about you like using your credit appropriately in most cases, because everybody makes more money off of you once you fail. Once you miss like a credit card payment, they're allowed to jack the interest rates up into God knows what. So it's really important that you take responsibility for all of that. And you are prepared to see this year through to the end with the energy that you started with the energy of willingness and trying to get the tools necessary to seize any opportunity that comes your way in 22, because they really are. Like, this is, especially when that Jupiter, Neptune, Pisces, like I think about girlfriends I have and people that I know that have had businesses for 4 or 5 years that they've been growing and might be kind of stalling. Like, this is beyond your wildest dreams, seeing businesses bloom or like function underneath you if you are a practitioner that has been really working on their craft but hasn't been able to line up with clients yet. This is like having a client following that just amazes you. You know what I mean? More business than you know what to do with. But I'm going to close with this. One of my first mentors in hair always used to say, this is in New York City, and this was like the truest thing he ever told me. Like, the reward for doing good work in this city is the right to do more work. Like, that is what success looks like. So you have to be able to scale. You need those Capricorn abilities to figure out how to get yourself to the next level. This is what I'm talking about. That is what you are fortifying yourself for. Are you ready to scale? Are you ready to make the climb? If all of this stuff that you are manifesting comes to your doorstep, are you going to choke? Like, are you going, in my case, are you going to like start a wave of like panic attacks that leave you unable to attend to anything in your life? Whatever your like burden is, like, we all carry different stuff, right? You know what those are. You know where your blessings are. You know what you have in your hand to be able to capitalize, maximize, you know what I mean? Make it work for you. Make your piece in this new reality fit you, because nobody else is going to be accommodating you to that level, and nobody else knows what you need the way that you do. This is about using the Scorpio South Node to investigate what's been unfed, what is left untended, you know, what's been neglected within you, what you have to let go of, so that you can be psychologically fit for the challenges and the adventures that 22 is going to have for you, okay? This is about using Jupiter and Pisces in domicile, not to engage in your recreational drugs of choice, but instead to take that inspiration and that knowledge of the oneness that everything has here and use it to lift you up to higher causes. This is about taking the North Node in Taurus and aiming all of your efforts into whatever has you as healthy as possible. Your health is wealth. And that is not a small thing right now, as we've listed. Whole Foods are probably your best friend, but have you seen how much they cost at the supermarket these days? There's some times where it seems like it's completely normal, and then other times where it feels like we're just like a few days away from The Walking Dead. And that is going to be kind of continuing into 22. Like, that's not something that we're going to be getting away from completely for a while. But you need that food. You need that fresh air. You need those loving connections that can be counted on. Not that, like, not unstable people around you. You need to know that you're supporting people that support you back, right? Figuring out who those people are, feeding your loved ones, feeding your supporters. That's like another big, like, you got to take care of the people that you are relying on. We have to stop verbally abusing teachers and medical staff. Like, I don't understand the purpose of it anyways, but like, we are going to run out of teachers and medical staff. This is a year about rebuilding. This is a year about repair. This is a year about recovery in a lot of ways, but it's also a year of being triggered into knowing what you need to recover from. So if you do have somebody around you that you see signs of kind of this Scorpio South Node behavior, if somebody's really starting to withdraw, if somebody's mood is really just like gone in the, just be gentle, man. Make some space. If you know it's a good person having a hard time, proceed accordingly. Like, this is like a very human sort of like vulnerable experience a lot of people are going to be having through no fault of their own. That compassion and empathy is going to count for a lot more than you might think, especially because you never know when you could be the one in need of compassion and empathy. But past that, like, this is mental health challenges that can be bested. You know, these are challenges that can absolutely be won. Like, these do not have to be losses, and they don't have to be tragedies. If you use these energies in the right way, you might find that you are no longer struggling with things that you thought you were going to die with, whether it is a secret that you've been carrying for too long, whether it is debt that's been plaguing you for a really long time, whether it is just kind of within the Scorpio sort of framework of the things that you don't talk about in polite company. Some of that is going to be exposed to sunlight so it can be disinfected. It's like all systems go, but it is definitely going to belong to the ones that are able to keep themselves in whatever version of ideal health works for you. Not somebody else's diet, not somebody else's workout habits. You have got to know the operating instructions for you. And if you are willing to give yourself all of that and all of that time and all of that attention, all of that investment, there really isn't anything that you can't do this year. Just make sure you're going after your goals and your passions and not someone else's expectations. This is about what makes you happy. This is about your gifts and where they go into the world. And if you're waiting for outside praise and approval to be able to do all that, that might not be here. But with Jupiter and Pisces and all this other planetary energy, you might not need it this year either. You might be able to have all of that for yourself. So I am just super excited. I can't wait to see what happens. Happy New Year. We actually made it. I will see you in the new year.